Welcome to the most dynamic show in mortgage, banking, and real estate sales. In this business, you need to get things done and dominate. You need energy. Get ready for your dose of Big Skip energy. Cynthia Barnes, welcome back to the Big
Hey.
Skip Energy podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. How have you been?
I have been living the dream.
That is so wonderful to hear.
How about you? It's been a minute since we've had time to connect, face to face.
Yes. Can you believe that it's been 2.5 years since we met at Outbound?
It's crazy. But it seems like forever ago, but it also seems like yesterday at the same time. It's odd.
Right. How does
Yep.
that happen?
I don't know. But you know what? A lot's happened since then.
Yes.
So, I really enjoyed, and the listeners really enjoyed having you on the first time. So I said, you know what? I need to get her back on the show because she had a lot to offer everybody. And so for those out there that don't know you, aren't familiar with who you are, what you do, just take a minute and introduce yourself for me, please, ma'am.
Thank you. Hi, I am Cynthia Barnes. You may have seen me as the first Black woman to keynote a national sales conference, and that's where I met Skip at Outbound 2022. I'm also the founder of the National Association of Women Sales Professionals. Currently, I am a keynote speaker, TEDx speaker, and also executive coach for women who want to reach the VP level. I mainly speak on the confidence-quota connection, how increasing confidence helps women achieve quota.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, that's me.
Very good. Yeah. So there are a couple of different things I want to talk to you about. So just based off the introduction, right? Like you said, we had a chance to meet at the Outbound Sales Conference 2.5 years ago, right?
Right.
Loved your talk then. Gina Tremarco was nice enough to actually formally introduce us. Enjoyed our conversation. It's been great following your work since then, which we'll talk about the confidence quota connection in just a minute. But you have also had you've had a lot going on. Your 10X talks, you've been getting out there, trying to speak, make an impact. It's been going really well. What part of that has been the most rewarding to you?
Messages in my LinkedIn inbox
Mm-hmm.
from women who look like me in an industry, sales, where people don't look like us, saying things like, Cynthia, I never saw a sales leader who looked like me before you.
Yeah.
Cynthia, I know that because you are doing it, I can do it too.
Mm-hmm.
Cynthia, thank you for saying the things that I want to say and don't have the confidence to say.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what is the most rewarding? Is my 12-year-old niece, Elizabeth, who will stand up in a heartbeat and tell anyone who's listening, anyone who challenges her, she will stand up in the blink of an eye and say, I can do whatever I want to do if I work hard and I'm willing to sacrifice because my auntie says I can.
Yeah. So, I think that's good because, what you're describing is a very classic role model and inspirational position. And you've been able to do that. And I think it's important. It really is important. In sales, that my background, of course, is in banking and mortgage, right? And, we face a similar issue. It's not the most diverse group of people. And so I wish we had somebody like you, though, to start stepping up and kind of carrying that mantle. But what was it specifically, that said, was it a spark that happened one day, or was it something gradually over time that was like, you know what, I have got to get out there and start doing this?
I was working for a company. I've never really thought about what that catalyst was.
Well, not everybody's got a spark, but it could just be a bunch of things leading up to it,
It was a lifetime of being the only one,
Mm-hmm.
being the only Black family in Greentown, Indiana, being the only one in company A, company B, company C, company Z, being told you are our diversity hire. And when I started NAWSP, I really never set out on a mission to be as impactful as it was. But that moment when that CEO said to me, Cynthia, if I had known how hard this DE&I stuff was going to be, I would have picked the cotton myself.
Oh, God.
And it was that moment that I said,
Jesus, that's Cynthia. That's terrible. God.
that's the kind of stuff I encounter to this day. And I looked around and I said,
Fathom that. Like,
you do realize I'm Black, right?
it's like, what?
The challenge
Goodness
is
gracious.
yes.
Fun times. Of course, the whole DEI thing is obviously a hot topic to these days. We won't go into that right now.
No,
But yeah,
I know
I
he's
think
not.
that would definitely be something that would spark me if I had a superior say. I still can't wrap my head around somebody telling you that you were the DEI hire. Of course, back then it wasn't called DEI, but it's just the same thing. It's just like, hey, what? Well, thanks for giving me no confidence in what I do whatsoever.
If I didn't have a strong sense of self-worth,
Yeah.
I would have been crushed a long time
I
ago.
was gonna say, I mean, that's like saying, so basically you're saying I can do the worst job possible and you're not gonna do it. And what kind of motivation is that?
My motivation is not extrinsic, it's intrinsic.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah,
has to be.
for sure. And that's you know what, and we all should have more of that,
Yes.
and that leads me, I guess. I'll tell you what, before I go into that, I wanna and I hope you don't mind me asking you about this, but you have undergone a transformation the last probably what, year or so. You have posted about this on LinkedIn that you have transformed yourself physically, living a healthy lifestyle, and what it's done for you.
Yes.
And
Over
if you're okay talking about that, I would love for you to share what some of the biggest challenges were for you, what some of the biggest motivations, because in our business and hell, in our society, we all
Mhm.
struggle with certain things, right?
Yes.
And this is one that a lot of people struggle with. It
Yes.
holds them back, and it's very hard to get out of that. Talk to listeners about that.
So over the past 7 months,
Mhm.
I was fortunate to find a weight loss regimen that worked for me.
Yeah.
After decades, and I say that and can't believe it, but decades of trying to find what works for me.
Yeah.
But what I found is that when I say, or when I used to say, I would pay any amount of money to find what works for me,
Hmm.
I was interested, but I wasn't committed.
Yeah. That's a good sales analogy right there.
Yeah. And there's so many parallels between sales and doing whatever, running a marathon, losing weight, whatever.
Hmm.
But the transformation came when I leveled up my self-worth because I had to be committed. And what that meant for me was not using food as the crutch to handle my emotions.
Hmm.
So when I leveled up my sense of self-worth and let go of that crutch of food and sought it in journaling and in expressing my feelings rather than eating them, I was successful in shedding the weight.
Yeah.
Then and only then was it possible.
Yeah. And how would you describe the difference in your mindset since you've been able to take, for lack of a better term, take control of yourself? You know?
It is the hardest, most challenging thing and the most rewarding thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
And that's how the confidence and the thank you, it's true, and this mission of attaching confidence to everything in life came about.
Hmm.
Because when you do something that you have tried to do for so many years, in my case, it was decades, when you accomplish that, you feel that you're invincible and you think, well, what else can I accomplish? rather than having a mindset of, well, I can't accomplish that, so I can't accomplish anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So now I look for opportunities to try new things and say, well, what if?
Yep.
Why not me?
Why exactly? Why not you? Why
Why
not
not me?
you? Do you feel different walking out on stage with a new sense of self-confidence?
I do.
Mhm.
I do. Because
Yeah.
I used to use the excess weight as an excuse.
Mhm. For what?
Everything.
Everything?
They won't hire me because I'm overweight.
Mhm.
They won't this because I'm overweight. And that was the story I was telling myself.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to hire an overweight speaker. Nobody wants to hire an overweight salesperson because our society loves fit,
Mhm.
trim, insert adjective.
Well, there's something to it though. That's why, there is because and I actually, me, I'm not a small person, right? And so, as I was having the conversation with my wife probably, I don't know, 2, 3 months ago. I said, especially now that I've transitioned into being self-employed and doing training and essentially being up in front of people full time, right? I said,
Mhm.
I don't feel like I'm making as big of an impact as I could. And this may or may not be true. I don't know, but it goes back to what you just said. I don't feel like I'm making as big of an impact as I could if I shed, 30 or 40 pounds, because if you look out there, you don't always, to your point, it's like, you don't, you always think of the person getting up and speaking, being trim, fit, exuding a specific image in your head.
Mhm.
And while there's some truth to that, like you said, it's hard because if you have that mindset, it's almost like you've got to work 10 times harder to try and overcome something that's it's almost like a specter that's kind of
Yes.
holding you back. Like it's a it's a perceived obstacle that,
Mhm.
you gotta get rid of that. And I think
Yes.
that's what you've done. That's awesome.
It was not easy,
No.
and it was worth it to create new neural pathways in my brain because
Hmm.
my brain automatically said the negative.
Yeah.
So I had to create new neural pathways which went to the positive
Mhm.
because my inner critic said one thing, the stories I was telling myself were one thing, and I had to immediately counter that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy. It's one of the hardest things you can do. But like you said, I think once you've done it, you can look back on what you've done. You can say it's about anything in sales too, right? I mean,
Sure.
if you've accomplished something, then you can look back and say, "Man, I did a really good job there. That was really hard."
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
so that's a good trend. I appreciate you sharing that with everybody because that's a really cool story. And I think we need to see more of that on. You see it on like on Instagram or TikTok. You see all the influencers doing this, that, and the other, but we don't see it from a business perspective very often. And that's why I particularly like your story because it applies to what the vast majority of people struggle with. It's not
Mhm.
about becoming a Barbie or Ken doll, right? It's about
Not
just
at all.
simply making yourself better.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the confidence quota connection. Tell me a little bit about that and kind of what led you to it.
I was on a mission to correlate confidence and money
Hmm.
because I said, what does having more confidence open me up to now that I have more confidence? And I got to thinking about my worth. And this is going to sound wild.
That's gonna be good then. I love wild.
So I read this book by Brian Tracy way, way back in the day of my early
Okay.
sales career. And Brian Tracy said to take the amount of money that you want to earn per year
Hmm.
and divide it down to your hourly rate.
Yeah. Actually, I did. So I do that exercise for people. I didn't know that too, that you wrote it though. Well,
Yes.
now I'm gonna have to look it up. Okay.
Yes. So I've always subscribed to that philosophy. So I recently did it for what I want in 2025.
You reverse engineer it.
I did. And I said, why is it so low? it should be a lot higher
Mm-hmm.
because I do business with vendors all the time,
Yeah.
and their hourly rate is a lot higher than mine. And I know good and darn well, while they're an expert in their area,
Mm-hmm.
I know that I have an expertise in my area.
100%.
So I bumped up my hourly rate
Yeah.
to be commiserate with my experience.
I really like that. I like that a lot.
And it wasn't about ego, it was about worth.
Yeah.
Because if you have a pair of Doc Martens in your closet and you have a pair of Ferragamos in your closet, which one are you going to wear with pride? More pride.
More pride? Well, I mean, the Ferragamos, I guess I gotta say,
Yeah. Why? Because you spent 4 figures on them.
Yeah.
Just because it was painful to part with the 4 figures versus the 2 figures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or maybe even 3 figures.
Which, by the way, as a side note, did you know that luxury shoe brands don't fit a big ass foot like mine unless I special order them, which makes it even more expensive? It's
That's why I
ridiculous.
went there with shoes.
That's ridiculous.
I know. You have to part money with Shaq shoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. They're custom.
But anyway,
Yes.
sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. But you get the analogy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. You pay more, you get more.
we do. And we take care and have more pride and value the things that we pay more for.
Mhm.
Because we realize in the back of our mind how many hours we have to work to get that.
Mm-hmm.
So, since we value what we pay for, as sales professionals, if we give away our services for cheap or offer them for cheap or discount them, we're subconsciously telling our prospects and our customers must not be very good if she's willing to give it away.
Willing to give it to us. And so, not to interrupt you, but it's funny. I was talking to somebody, and you know, when I set out to do my fee structure for this business, right
Mhm.
now, I've been doing this as kind of a side gig for 34 years now, but doing it full time, setting out my fee structure for it. I was talking to a couple of different trainers, about this, and they said, Skip, you got to increase those prices, man. I was like, okay, I thought these were fair. It's like, are they though? Think about what you're putting into it. You've been in this business for 22 years. You've been in these roles. You have these different perspectives. You have this knowledge base. So in our space, right? I was like, I know that I'm not going to command, like, I'm not going to pick on them, but Jed Blunt fees, right? For speaking. I know that, not yet anyway. But the thing is, like, once you start charging lower, you get pigeonholed into doing that.
Yes.
It's a lot harder to go up once if I charge $500 for event X, it's going to be hard, especially to get repeat business from that customer. If all of a sudden you start charging $2,500 for it, but it goes back to exactly what you said. And I love that you brought that up, is because you've got to understand your worth.
Yes. And also to that point, what is the value or the ROI your client receives from
Mhm.
what you deliver?
Yep.
If they're going to exponentially increase their revenue
Yeah.
by what you deliver, then why shouldn't you recoup that benefit as well? It's a trickle down effect.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the things I think a lot of salespeople, not just in our space now, but in any sales, industry, they don't really get that, right? I mean, whenever I do a proposal for a new client, I go through, these are the outcomes you're going to get. All right. Now, this is what you're going to have to do to cover the cost of it. After that, your ROI should be expected to be here.
Mhm.
If you show them both ways, like, if you put it out for them, it's a no-brainer,
Right.
and if they're still not buying, then it's because you have not articulated that worth well enough, or, you're not a fit for everybody. And I am acknowledging that has been, as a salesperson, it's very hard for us to acknowledge, I think, that we're just not a good fit for everybody.
Right.
I mean, I could have the exact same numbers, product, everything, and somebody's just not going to connect with me or whatever for you. And so I think we have to also look at that. But yeah, know your worth. Don't cheapen
Mhm.
yourself, right?
No, you are not cheap, easy, or free.
That's right.
No. And on that same,
I'm pretty easy. Just
along those
kidding.
same lines, I'd like for you and your listeners to calculate, maybe through toggle track, the
Yeah.
amount of hours you spend on one client getting one deal.
Hmm.
And you may have to look at your dashboard as an entrepreneur, calculate it, but break it down and find out how much time did you spend landing that deal.
Hmm.
And then calculate how much the commission was on that deal. If you're making $10 an hour, something's not right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Either you should increase your skill set, increase your prices, you're going after the wrong customer,
Hmm.
you're discounting.
Whatever
But
the
what it
case.
boils down to is confidence,
Yeah.
because confident sellers don't discount.
Right.
You don't see Bentley offering 90 days same as cash.
we're going to be a sad state of affairs if we start seeing stuff like that,
Right?
man. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to offer you 50% off if I know that I'm worth 100%, actually 120%. I'm not going to do it because I know my worth.
Yeah.
When people know their worth and what they bring to the table, they don't discount.
Hmm.
They realize that sometimes we're a match, but we're not a fit. If you can't afford
That's a great term. Yeah.
if you can't afford my full price, genuinely cannot afford it, I'm not going to convince you to do it,
Mhm.
because a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still.
Yeah, exactly.
I also am going to pre-qualify you in the initial conversation, because I'm not wasting your time and I'm not wasting mine.
So let me ask you this on that note.
Yes.
This is a complete side note. And
Sure.
I'd like to hear your 2 cents on this. Whenever you're having your initial screening conversation, salespeople often ask, so what's your budget for this project? Right?
Oh, no.
That's a terrible way to ask about.
You can
So
ask without asking that way.
exactly, because the answer is inevitably going to be, they're going to fire it right back at you. Well, don't really know. Haven't done this before. Well, it depends. That kind of thing. So give all of our salespeople a different approach, a markedly better one that you would use.
Are there any budgetary constraints I need to be aware of?
Hmm. Yeah. So that's literally taking the crappy line and making it look a whole lot better. There's
Mhm.
also questions that you can ask to essentially get the answer for yourself. You know,
What type of budget have you set aside for this project?
yeah. What have you spent in the past for things like this?
Yes.
Yeah. That'd be good.
I want to make sure that
That's
we're
my go-to, by the way.
right. I want to make sure that we're a good fit for each other. What type of budget do you have set aside for this?
Yeah. Yeah. I love it.
Well,
I love it.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Well,
asking the blunt, obtuse question is just that's never good. And because they don't have a good answer for it.
they don't. And if they say we don't know, then they are not serious and they do not have a sense of urgency,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Because if I'm buying a house and I have 30 days to get out of my house because I just sold it, I know how much I have to spend.
That's
I've been
right.
pre-qualified. I've gone to the bank. I'm packing boxes.
Yeah.
There's a sense of urgency,
100%. 100%.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So if I haven't
thing.
set
The,
aside a
the thing, the
budget,
sense of urgency is the other thing that I think a lot of salespeople lack. I know we've gotten way off topic here. Sorry.
that's all
Uh,
right. This is good stuff.
Yeah, it is. So going back to the confidence quota connection, talk to me. I mean, I understand the concept of it, but tell me what types of things are you out there doing to try and promote it? Is this something where is this just a running theme? Is this a group? Is it specific talks you're giving? Talk to me more about that. I mean, I kind of know from LinkedIn stuff, but share with everybody else.
Keynotes, and I go into companies either virtually or in person,
Mhm.
and I talk to them about portraying confidence through negotiations, through virtual, how to show up, how to
Yeah.
speak confidently. And through that, sales leaders know that when their sales reps show up confidently, they discount less, close more, the sales cycle is decreased, and people hit their quota. So I'm targeting the middle section of their performers. The bottom performers, they're on their way out the door anyway.
Yeah, they'll constantly be recycling through. You don't want to focus on that.
No. Top performers, they got it.
Yeah.
It's
that you guys work with them on a different skill set.
Right. But if you can affect the middle and get them just 10% better, imagine what would happen if just 10% of your middle 60% achieve quota.
Well, you're essentially going to be eventually redefining what it means to be a top producer.
Yeah.
Then you're taking that meaty part of the curve and scooting it over a little bit.
Yep.
So they're doing that actually puts a lot of pressure on the lower performers, so which is good. That's a good thing. It's funny about the confidence. So one of the biggest things I find that people do, this is going to be shifting gears real quick to asking for meetings and prospecting with new referral partners and that kind of thing. One of the biggest issues I find, and one of the things I train on all the time, is having confident language, avoiding the conditionals of would, could, maybe, might, do you think?
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest strategies that you've seen people implement during your work with this initiative to get people to drop the conditional language, essentially, and be less passive and more assertive?
Right. So instead of, let's say you're asking for a referral and you say, would you mind referring someone to me?
Yes, I would mind.
Exactly.
Yes, I would mind.
Yeah, don't give me an out. I approach referrals by asking, how was your experience?
Yeah.
And they say, it is wonderful. And then I ask for a LinkedIn testimonial, recommendation. Then I say, who in your network would benefit from my services like you did? I don't say, do you know anybody? Because they're going to say no.
Yeah.
And if they say, can't think of anybody offhand, I say, let's make it easy. Why don't you pull out your phone and talk to me about the last 10 people you texted?
That's a good one. I like that one.
Yeah. Or the last 10 people you emailed. And we go through it together. You have to give people, you have to kind of lead them where you want them to go. But as far as the confident language, I expect, again, confidence, I expect referrals because they've already told me I did a good job. I expect, so there's a layer, an attitude of expectation. Yeah. Who do you know?
Don't you want people to have the same pleasure that you just received?
Exactly.
How would you not want that?
Right. And that expectation, but it starts from the very beginning. Every way I communicate with my prospect from the very beginning, I expect us to go to the next level. I expect you to have a sense of urgency. I expect you to pay your bills on time. It's the expectation.
Yeah.
And people rise to your level of expectation. If you accept mediocrity, they will perform with mediocrity.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So
you set the standard. You set the pace.
Yep.
You don't say things like, well, I'm open all afternoon on Friday. Does your doctor do that? No.
Yeah. Do whatever you feel like it. Yeah. Nah. So two things on that. One, if you are,
shame on you.
You may want to revisit things. And two, come on, man, take a time out. You're not being accommodating. You're being wishy-washy.
You are the professional.
Yeah.
Set the standard. Have some posture.
Posture. Yes. I love it. I love it. So, all right, Cynthia. So we've reached the end here, unfortunately, because I would love to keep talking with you on this. But for listeners out there that want to connect with you and get in touch with you, maybe even hire you, where should they go? What should they do?
Reach out to me on LinkedIn. You'll find me. I'm Cynthia
She's easy to find, folks.
Yes. My website is cynthia-barnes.com. those are the two places I hang out.
Yeah. So when you went to go to your website, was Cynthia Barnes just back to back? Was it taken already?
It was.
That's a bunch of crap.
You know,
You should find out who's got it and offer to pay them for the site address.
I did.
Oh.
And then she looked me up on LinkedIn and she gave me a price I wasn't willing to pay.
Oh my goodness gracious. She's like, oh, all of a sudden she's seeing dollar signs. That's
Yeah,
right.
she came with confidence.
Yeah, y'all were a match, but not a fit.
And I wasn't mad at her at all. I said,
Oh, well, that's fine. But no, so Cynthia.Barnes, Cynthia-Barnes.
yes.
Very good. Well, listen, I appreciate the conversation as always. It's been awesome to catch up with you. I really enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you soon. All right.
You gotcha.